Fellas, say goodbye to Chuck Sherman the boy. I am now a man. I highly recommend you join the club. We are doing the wild thing all night.
Acid house music.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sherm.
Sherman, I cooked all this food. Is that all you gonna eat?
General Sherman realized and understood the importance of house music.
So, do you know anything about techno?
No.
Listen.
Get it on. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new episode of Sherm in the Booth. I'm, of course, your host, Sherm. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. This is episode 107. Hope everybody is staying safe and staying inside out there and doing well. It will all be over soon. I just know it. But I'm so pumped about this one, guys. It features my man, John Lynx. Now, John Lynx is an incredible DJ producer, guys, and I'm such a big fan of his productions. His style took me back to my original days of loving electronic music, 2011 to 2013. The Aviciis, the Alessos, the Sebastian Ingrossos. This guy makes heat, and it's so emotional, and it was so awesome to talk to him about his productions and his influences and how he collaborates with singers. He's really, really well versed though in the industry, guys. He's got a ton of experience. We talked about how different cities around the world have different genre preferences, and it was awesome to get his perspective from a guy who actually has DJed in a lot of different cities. We also talked about his record label, Careless Records, which is a very, very prominent and popular Chicago music label here with a slew of awesome releases. And they just started Careless Dark, which takes a deeper dive into the progressive house and tech range. And I'm so excited to see what that label does in the future. But without further ado, guys, let's get into it right now. This is episode 107 with John Lynx.
How are you doing? How's everything going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got a day job in logistics, so that's been pretty busy. So, doing what I can to just keep my mind off what's really going on, but doing interviews, keeping my podcast going. I've never had more to talk about.
Nice, man. Well, good, man. Always keeping busy, man. That's key to everything, especially in this day and age, man.
Oh my gosh.
New normal.
I know, and it's like we woke up and it was a whole new world, right? It wasn't like, oh, this is gradually happening. Kind of it did, but there's been a lot of big changes. I was just kind of really thinking deep about it this week since it's been about a month or so, and it's reality. And although I do think it's tough hit on the music industry, it is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
Anybody who was doing really well in the touring life, right? They're put back on the same stool as everybody else. So
very true.
There's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, but it's important we all help each other out, man.
For sure, man. Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that.
What about you? How you been keeping busy?
Me and a couple other guys that are with Careless Records, we are starting a new sister company label. It's Careless Dark.
Okay.
It's focused more on the the darker, deep, melodic, tech, dark, just stuff kind of like an Anjuna Deep.
Yes.
If you want to put it like that. So
Absolutely.
We're working on that a lot.
Great.
I do a lot of film score and television. So, unfortunately, everything is stopped process. So they're not doing anything. So I've had a lot of time on my hands, They shut down production completely in all of Hollywood, everywhere. So all the film scores and all the shows that I've picked up, unfortunately, it's all on a halt. So, it's giving me a lot of time on my hands,
Yeah, absolutely, man. That licensing and syndication game is really, really interesting, though. It's a whole different side of music that I think a lot of producers, at least DJ producers, don't think about. There's a lot of money to be made out there, too. So props to you. How long have you been doing that for?
15 years.
Really?
Yeah, I've been doing a long time, man. That's kind of where I'm at. That's my bread and butter. I mean, I do a lot of producing for other artists as well.
Okay.
But film score and television is a big part of my life.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You a big movie guy then? You got the movie theater.
I'm a pretty big movie guy, especially this time, man. I'm doing nothing but just binging on Netflix, man.
I know. What have you been watching?
Let's see what I'm on now. I'm on Ozark. Obviously, everybody in the world has probably watched Tiger King, man.
I haven't, dude.
Really, dude? Oh my God, man! I'm surprised. Everybody in the world has watched it, and they're talking about this show, man. It's
I know.
It doesn't even seem real, man. Like people are like that, but it is.
No, it's true, man. I've like I said, I've been busy, but I gotta watch it, man. It's everybody's like, I feel like I almost understand the show through memes. That's like this day and age. You can understand what's going on in pop culture through what's on Instagram memes the most.
Yeah, man, for sure. For sure.
You liked it though?
Yeah, it was interesting, man. It's kind of like you watch the first episode and you're just hooked, man. You watch the first and then you're like, all right, man, I'll watch the second. Before you know it, in 2 days' time, you finished it, you know? So, but I mean, what have I been doing, man? God, I mean, this gives me time. I'm working on a new track. So I should have that out in maybe the next month or so. I'm working with a vocalist right now on it. So we'll see where that goes. So that should be coming up in the future. This Careless Dark with Alex Kislov, that's going to release. Shit, we got to release tomorrow, man. That we're, yeah, for this one guy out of UK. His name is Static Disco. Cool. It drops actually tonight at midnight, so we're excited about that. We got some good stuff coming up, man. You know.
Congratulations! Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get into Careless and you said Careless Dark. What's it called
Yeah,
exactly?
Careless Dark. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people kind of exploring the darker side of house music now, right? Because house music is becoming more mainstream to a certain extent. You know, just with like the touring DJs that play house music, how much bigger they've gotten in the past, 365 days. And people are wanting to know, all right, well, what else is in this realm? Because before I got into house music, like 4 or 5 years ago, I assumed it was all one thing, right? There's like techno and there's house. But we both know there's layers and layers below each of those genres.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anything more commercialized, like that would be considered like Careless Records. You know, so all like the stuff, I'm still working on Careless Records and doing some tracks like, all your Chainsmokers, your Zed, your Calvin Harris, all that stuff. It's very, very mainstream.
Yeah.
I'd even say Fisher nowadays is more mainstream.
Right. That's what I mean. Crazy.
Anything like that will be on Careless Records. But if it's something dark, melodic, man, just real, like, it's going to take you on a journey.
Yep.
And it's totally something different than pop, EDM, mainstream. That's what's going to be Careless Dark, man. Okay. Something for people that want to be taken on a journey,
Yes, my man, absolutely. I know people think it's cliche to say that, but it really is the best way to describe some types of music.
Yeah, that's like kind of like going to Spy Bar at like 2 a.m, man. That's Careless Dark, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, all right. Yes, I think I fully understand now.
Yeah.
Going to Spy Bar at 2 a.m. Not like, I've been at Spy Bar since 10 p.m.
Well, there you go, man. Actually, 4 a.m. Who knows, man? It's so late, man.
Lights on. Yeah, lights on. It's Careless Light. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I wish we could have done this in person. I've been following you for some time now. Alex Kislov is a good friend of mine, and ever since I saw Careless Records, since he released on it, I think it was Mystery, is when I first discovered your guys' record label and, started looking at you and Vincent more. So first off, kudos to you for all you've done, man. And I know you are crushing it here in the Chicago scene, right? Careless Records is a household name here. So, I just want to acknowledge you for that. But I wish we could have done this in person because I do have a lot of respect for you and I wanted to shake hands. So I guess we can do this.
Yeah, man, for sure, dude. Virtually shake hands, man.
I know, but I appreciate you taking some time. It means a lot.
Yeah, of course, man. Absolutely. I mean, it's I appreciate you asking me to come on, man. I mean, same thing. It's like, I've heard about you. Alex has mentioned you. A lot of other people, Max, these other guys. So, they've had nothing good things to say about you, but I've never had a chance to meet you, face to face. But, eventually when all this is past us, man,
Yeah, it always happens. After I had met somebody and we come on the podcast, we cross paths a lot more. I think it's the way the world works sometimes. So I'm sure we will as soon as this is all over.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to LA. I mean, I'm based here in LA. I'm in LA a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I do love Chicago, but I don't like the winters here. So I try to spend as much time in LA as I can.
That's fair.
And all of my work is out there too. But Chicago's a beautiful city, man. I was born and raised in the burbs. So I
was going to ask where you're actually originally from then, Chicagoland?
Yeah, Chicago burbs, man. Like over in like the Bolingbrook, Plainfield area.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at now. It just gives me a lot more freedom to work. And, it's more secluded, more room, just a place to escape, man. You know what I mean? I love the city, man, and I love the city life, man. It's, sometimes it's just, man, it's too much, dude. If I was in the city and I was like living there, I don't think I'd sleep, man. I'd be out every single night, and that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If I didn't have this day job, I probably would have lost myself at this point. I came from Indiana, and I just wanted to get the opposite experience of what I grew up. And I live downtown, and it's definitely an unbelievable place. But the winters are pretty brutal. I don't think anyone in Chicago will lie to you and say no, they're not bad, because they are.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I see exactly where you're coming from, dude. And I heard a lot of good things about this podcast too that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
episode 107, John, 107, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. Very good.
Been doing it for a long time, and I swear every episode I love it more and more. So it's been a great way to connect with people in the music industry, Chicago specifically too. Just getting that real, genuine connection with people that's outside of the club. Hey, let's take a shot, right? Like actually to sit down and talk with people and understand their story has been so rewarding for me. So it's great timing, because in my mind, you're a very successful artist, and I hope you think the same too. I was taking a look back through all your music, man. Like that is like my bread and butter why I got into electronic music. Like when I was in college, Avicii Levels had just come out in 2011, right? Obviously the foundation of many different genres. But I, got deeper, like you were talking about with Careless Dark, right? Like I was like, there's more, I need more. And I got super into, the progressives like Alesso, the Matisse and Sadko, Dub Vision, Thomas Gold. Your music is very emotional, lyrically driven, powerful ballads. Your melodies are awesome, but it's very unique in and of itself. For those that don't know your music, and they will soon, what would you consider your genre?
Progressive house, or big room type stuff. I do a lot. I do a lot of work with Nicky Romero.
Okay.
So, like, he's supporting all my stuff. I've been working with him for some time now, man. Before I came out and did it on my own. That guy's a huge inspiration. He's very, very talented. Yeah. He's actually helped Avicii out when he first started out. So getting support by him and Hardwell and some other guys out there. I mean, that's the kind of music that I'm making, and I love to make that because it's emotional for me. Yeah. But sometimes I want to switch it up a little bit, man, and get a little dark. So I'm still doing that. The newest release that I'm going to be releasing is that Alesso's progressive house big room feel. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm going to be making a lot of stuff that is a little bit on the darker side as well. I mean, dude, I've been doing this for some time now. I started off with like old school guys, like the guy who founded DJ International. His name is Rocky Jones. Mm-hmm. And he pretty much made house music. They started the Warehouse. They started with Frankie Knuckles. Yeah. They started with all these old school guys, man. And that's kind of where I learned my way, was from this guy. He's kind of like a mentor. And it's cool to have him around. And nobody really knows who he is nowadays because all the younger generation. Yeah. But if anybody was ever to Google like Rocky Jones and DJ International, they'll see exactly where house music started. And it was cool just to be a part of that, man, with him around,
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask, you're growing up in Chicago, what was it like for you in that day and age, really, with the kind of the birth of house music? I mean, how influential was it at that time, and how influential is it still for you now?
It's still very, influential. It has been. It was exciting back then, but a lot of people are sampling stuff they don't even know what it is. So they'll take a house track and they'll say, they won't know who it is or what it is. They'll just get it off of like Splice or something. Yeah. And they'll be like, this is really dope. And then I hear it. I'm like, that was this track back in 1993 or 94. So it's like they know it, but they don't know it. So, it's really cool to actually know this stuff when it originally came out, as opposed to like sampling it and not knowing the history of it. I think it's so cool that, there are so many tracks out there that are still getting sampled, so people can hear them again, just in a different version.
So true, especially in popular house music nowadays. The Defecteds and the Sewer Rooms of the world, like those labels certainly do have respect for the roots. But I love disco. I grew up on disco. My dad is from, my dad's from Queens. My mom's from Baltimore, and they grew up in the disco era. The 60s and 70s and the early 80s, and all that stuff was always playing, in the car, in the house. And when I hear some music nowadays that seems to be remixed or reformatted, it's like, oh, that's an original song from 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the ones that are remixing it have no idea where it's coming from. So, you know, I just find that funny, you know. So it's cool that they're on it, but, you know, man, the history that, you know, is behind it is something else, man. You know, and a lot of this stuff has come from Chicago, and I love that about the city.
Absolutely. Were your parents musical? Because, I mean, your music theory is obviously extremely, extremely talented. I mean, when did you learn to actually play piano or, you know, when did music?
I've been playing the piano since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So, and then I was learning to read for that. And, you know, I went to music school for 4 years. So I studied music theory, you know, layering, reading sheet music, you know, putting everything together. And that's kind of where the film score came in. But dude, I've been like DJing music since there were 1,200 Technique turntables, man. You know, and
was that the first table you had?
Huh?
What was your first piece of equipment that you had?
Man, dude, I had like a freaking crappy ass Gemini hand-me-down mixer, and a couple of 1,200 Techniques where I had to always put a quarter on the freaking needle, man, because it would skip if I didn't. You know.
That's
so
legendary, though.
Yeah. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think that just gives people more of a background to bust their butt, man. You know, work harder, you know, for what they've got. And I've always been humble, man. I've come from humble beginnings. My father came from Germany, man. Yeah. So like, you know, that whole Euro progressive house that's overseas. It's funny. A lot of people don't really listen to that too much in Chicago. A lot of it's tech house, you know, a lot of it's underground in Chicago. Yeah. So the music I'm making is, you know, the fan base isn't as big in Chicago as it is like over in Italy or frickin' France or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So even you, I mean, when you told me a lesson, all that, I'm like, yeah, man, that's awesome. You're liking this stuff, because I go to clubs in Chicago. I just don't hear that anywhere unless Nicky Romero or somebody's coming to Prism, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely one in a million these days, at least in Chicago. I mean, there's a huge wave, you know, there in 2013 through 2013 in the United States, and then it kind of boiled over to a certain extent, except for those legends, you know, the Alessos, and even nowadays, like, and Nicky Romero has a dark side too with some of the music he produces. So I loved hearing you say that. But myself, a lot of my friends, we live and die, man, for those melodic breakdowns and build-ups. Like, that was like my first, you know, when you put your arms out at the festival and you're like, yes, and everybody's jumping up. That I sent the track that I shared today actually to my friend who's one of my longest friends, and he was like, oh yeah, this is that true progressive right here.
Yeah, man.
So it is crazy how differently it's received throughout the world, and some people who start up in the United States, their fan base is actually in different countries, right?
Yep.
The United States is a different type of market to break into, to really blow up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that 100%. It's you know, a lot of people they said the term progressive house is dead, but it's not, man. No. It just depends where you're at, because there's these younger guys that I've talked to not too long ago. Their name they go by the name of Sick Individuals.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. They're crushing stuff right now, man. And they're doing a lot of the same stuff I'm doing. So progressive house isn't dead. It just, you know, you have to know where you're at and when to play it. And that's just the biggest key. And it's, you know, if I'm doing a set in Chicago, to be honest with you, I'm doing a lot of my own remixes of hip hop tracks, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of deep house, you know, mixes, what I'm doing, remixes of hip hop songs right now. So, because that's what's going on in the clubs, man, you know? Yeah. So you just got to know where you're at to play what you want.
Fact. And you know what? You got to keep making your own music if you want to be those Nicky Romeros and play your type of music. That's just how it goes, man. Like, to be in a place like Chicago where it is so saturated and it's so competitive in terms of the talent, right? It's like even guys like yourself who are truly gifted producers still need to cater to the crowd in a city like this, because it's a job to a certain extent, right? But when you become a headliner in a big city in the U.S., that's probably the biggest difference now that I'm thinking about it out loud. You can play a progressive set probably in Europe, right? And people will love that. You could be the opener maybe. And in Chicago, it's like, what are you doing? Like, these people aren't for that.
You know, it's funny. I got away with it once at Prism. It was this you know, Arvy. Everyone knows Arvy in Chicago, man. It was his birthday party. So, you know, I was closing for him.
Oh, and, nice.
Yeah, everyone was all wasted. So, but, you know, as soon as what's that?
Was that on his birthday?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, you know, I closed it out and I'm like, you know what? Everyone's having a good time. You know what? it doesn't matter, man. So I had a progressive house that I played, and Era was going nuts. So the people that were there, man. So it felt good to play the stuff that you want to play and the stuff that you were proud of making, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but you know, that was probably the only time I was able to get away with that. I'll try it again, but you know, we'll see this what the atmosphere is and stuff, you know.
I hear you on that, man. That's a funny story. I mean, who are some of your biggest influences now? I mean, when you were really getting going, you know, you said you were making music for other people, collaborating. Was there some kind of a role model or maybe a mentor you had that you learned from? You went to music school. Who were some of the people that really pushed you to where you're at today?
Oh man, there's just so many. I mean, gosh, let me think. You know what? People ask me that question, and I'm like, oh, I'll be prepared for that. But there's just so many, man. I mean, being honest with you, this is non-EDM related, but dude, Coldplay is like one of the better influences I've had. Those guys, you know,
yeah.
You know, Chris Martin is just a phenomenal genius, dude, when it comes to music writing. You know, a lot of my influence has been like, you know, there's a guy named Brian Tyler. Dude is a genius. He does film score and he does producing with EDM. Mm-hmm. He did a film score for the Avengers. He does a lot of touring for, you know, same music I'm making, Alesso type stuff. Mm-hmm. He's really big in Hollywood, and I've always looked up to that guy. He's just been a really big influence in my life.
That's
so,
awesome.
You know, I'll mention Brian Tyler, like, who the hell is that? But then when they start Googling this guy, they're gonna be like, wow, this guy is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Tiesto in his prime, he was really good.
Yeah.
You know, he made a lot of good music back then. Avicii, God rest his soul. I mean, that kid was amazing at what he was doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't really have an age range back then. It's just certain individuals just really catch my ear when they start making sounds, and those were a few of them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I vibe with you so much on that, John. I mean, one of the songs that really broke through for me was the Starlight Don Diablo remix, you know, the original Otto Knows.
Yeah, man. Wow. Okay. That's good, man.
I'm deep.
Yeah.
I'm deep, Johnny. Trust me.
I just by you saying that, man, it shows a lot.
I've got a playlist that's kind of a guilty pleasure progressive, and anytime I can whip that out, that's probably one of mine. So I know what you mean by that stuff, right? It's like those early things that still make a difference today, but maybe you don't get the opportunity to think about them as much, but they're always in the back of the head, right?
You know what? I have got to say one more guy, and I don't know why I didn't, because I know him really well, and I worked with the vocalist that he gave me, Armin van Buuren.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't forget him, man.
Of course.
You know, I met the vocalist who has been featured on 2 of my songs, Angel Taylor.
Yeah.
She was on tour with him for his One Night Only a couple years back ago.
Yeah.
And she was like in the Netherlands with him doing some stuff. And then he gave me her, you know, he's like, hey, John, if you want a good vocalist, use her. So I've got 2 songs. My latest release, she's been on, and the first release. So if you guys are listening, man, check that out. It's definitely a good track. But yeah, Armin van Buuren is one of my guys right there. I like that guy. Love him, man. So
I like that guy.
Yeah.
Well, 2019 was a big year for you, man. You had over 300,000 streams across 150K listeners. First off, congrats. That's a huge amount. That's a dedicated amount. You've got over 20,000 Spotify listeners a month, I think?
I think so. You know what? I haven't even checked that. I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm kind of curious myself.
I'm a numbers guy.
You do your research, man.
I do.
Let's see what I got. I don't even know. That's a good question, and I appreciate everybody too. Yeah, 21,000. That's great, man. Nice.
To me, those numbers are obviously impressive, but just with your type of music, you know, from a fan's perspective, you know, just like outside looking in, outside of a guy who does a podcast, outside of a guy who loves music.
Yeah.
Your music is something that people love and are committed to, right? You don't just like release a song here and there. Like I can just tell from the conversation we've already had, you put your heart and soul into your music.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I know a lot of people are like, they're all about, I got to release some. Mm-hmm. But see, on the contrary to that, you know, release something, but make sure you're proud of it. And it's something that's going to be sustainable because, you know, if you're releasing so much, people are going to be like, okay, they're so used to you releasing music. You know, if you don't spread it out to the other artists out there, you know, they're not going to be, you know, excited. You know, there's no buzz for it, you know, like, oh, it's another release. But if you're releasing something that you really take pride in, people are going to want to like get to it and listen to it. So be careful how much music you guys are releasing, you know? It just makes more sense to release something that, you know, is more passionate to you than having to worry about getting a release done at all, you know?
What's your music making process like? I want to get a little granular with this. You know, there, of course, I make my own music, and there are some days where one day just something comes and you're like, wow, like this happened so fast. And then there's other times where it takes months. I mean,
You're absolutely right.
That, right?
Yeah, absolutely right, man.
Reason.
Well, my music processing is very simple. I don't do anything electronically. I'll sit in front of my piano and I will bang out a melody. And once I have something that I wrote down, I'll put it on some sheet music, those chords, get everything structured. Then I'll finally go to my DAW and start putting everything in. But I don't really do anything on the DAW until, you know, I'm done. So sometimes I'll sit in front of the piano for 2 hours and I'll have nothing. And then, you know, then I'll come back a day later or two, and then I'll have something in 10 or 15 minutes. But everything is done on the piano first, you know, everything. Yeah, everything's done acoustically. What's that?
You use FL Studio? I
do, yes. I started on frickin' Sony Acid and Cakewalk way back when.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, but right now FL Studio, just because some of the plugins on there for film scoring are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't use Contact as much as I do Nexus. Nexus is great. They've got some really cool Hollywood sound packs in there. So FL Studio is great. You know, a lot of people like go back and forth, man, get rid of FL Studio, go to Ableton. It's really not about what you use it, man. It's about how you make your music, man. You know, that's what really counts. So I won't knock any DAW or anybody and what they're using. Do what you got to do. Just make good music, you know?
Absolutely. That always comes up too. And I love you saying that, because everybody's got their toolbox, right? Like, we can all build a house. What tools you use to build it, that's up to you. And whatever you want to use to build it, fine.
Just make a beautiful house, no matter how you get it done.
Beautiful house. That's right, John. I love that, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Well, what about your collaboration process with the vocalists? You know, I've had people on that have never actually met these people in person, and there are people who refuse to do it any other way. How have you done it in the past?
That's a good question. I kind of do it two ways. That song, let me see which one I have working on now. Let me just kind of give you an idea. There is a track. Well, for instance, Because of You, the song that I just released with Angel Taylor.
Yeah.
We were in the studio in LA, and I sat down in front of the piano, and she was in the studio, and I was making these chords for that song, Because of You, and she started singing on it, and boom, it was done. And that was done 2 years ago, and we just released that. What? Yeah, or when did that come out? Sometime last month, I think. It's just the latest one. So I originally did that acoustically. So that happened when we were together collaborating. But sometimes I'll have the track done, and I'll send it off to somebody, and then they'll, you know, get it done with the vocals, give it to me back, the stems, and then, you know, I'll just put everything in there. I don't send my tracks off as an EDM version of it because, one, I want a lot of headroom for the vocalist to work with. Right. And sometimes EDM just can be a little too loud for headroom, and it can kind of get mixed in when they're singing. Another one is I try to strip it down as much as possible so the vocalist can put their whole soul into it. And if it's an acoustic ballad version of it, I think they vibe more on that. And then I send it back to them with it's finished, and then the EDM version, and they're just mind blown. They're like, it sounded nothing like what we did. You know, it was kind of a good treat for both of us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really that raw and visceral experience too. Like from, I've talked to a lot of singer-songwriters before, right? And some of them have never been in the EDM game now, especially since it's really, really blown up in terms of collaborations in the past 5 years or so. And they are just mystified by what people can do these days with electronic music. But that's really cool that you send it to them stripped down. So you mean just the bare essentials, the melody? Do you send them like any percussion in that? Like what's it look like when you send it to them? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it'll have a file of a piano and maybe some strings to it, and maybe a couple of drum hits, and just maybe a little bit of a riser so they know when to come in. That's it.
Wow.
So it's just stripped down as much as possible, and I think a lot of the people I've worked with love it. Even the one track that you posted, Everything You Need. Yeah, that was completely different. That was something that Mickey Shiloh did, and she's awesome, man. That girl gets no credit, man, but she has wrote for LL Cool J, for Beyonce, for Lady Gaga, just everybody, man. And, you know, a lot of people really like that song, but it didn't start like that. It was all stripped down. So it was a piano and some freaking strings, and she just nailed it. So
That's really good advice for anybody who wants to collaborate with singers out there, because in my experience, and, you know, you have a lot more years behind you, but that's beautiful, actually. That's like the true element of music, is the connection with the song and the singer. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, once I get enough of these tracks done, I'm probably going to just come out with an EP with like an acoustic versions of a lot of these things.
Oh,
So, you know, you'll hear the other songs and you'll hear how they sounded when they actually got sent off to the vocalist. So, you know,
really cool.
And I like a lot of down-tempo chill type stuff, man. A lot of people, I ask them, I'm like, you know, when they come to the studio and we work on stuff, I'm like, what was the last thing you listened to you're in your car, you know? And, you know, I just want to hear what they're listening to. What were you listening to on the way to work? What were you listening to now? Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people are like, you know, Green Velvet or this or that.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to freaking Hans Zimmer, Cornfield Chase. You know what I mean? Like something that, you know, they're like, well, that I didn't expect that. And that's what it's all about, man. You know, I don't like to listen to a lot of EDM because that's all I'm doing all day is making it. So, you know, I'll listen to Queen, man. You know, I'll listen to like old classic rock, dude. You know, I'll listen to anything but EDM, man. I just get a little, you know, I just want to get out of that, you know, area when I'm not producing it. Sometimes I need a break from it, man. You know?
I totally agree. Even when it comes to like a day of a show for me or going to another show, I refuse to listen to that type of music. People are like, let's put on their set.
Yeah.
Or I'm just like, no, like, let's just go in fresh, man. Like,
there you go, man.
You got it. And I do that too. And I think that's an interesting thing about making music, right? Like, it is important that it's not forced. It's important to find the line between working hard and being motivated, but also not pushing yourself to exhaustion and stress, because no creativity comes out of that.
No. Dude, you are a smart man when it comes to that. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, I've been in the car and I'm in the same boat. They're like, hey, let's put on so-and-so set. I'm like, no. Man, honestly, the last set I listened to was Lane 8, man, and it was so chill, you know?
That's great, just background music, too.
Yeah, man. I mean, that I can just listen to all day long. But, you know, some, like, tech house, and I'm all for it. Trust me. I like it. I love any kind of music. I'll never knock anything. Not even hip-hop. I won't knock it. There is some hip-hop that I love.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just, you know, again, you know, like you need a break from it before you actually go and rage or whatever, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, my gosh. I totally agree. Well, let me ask you, John, out of all the songs that you produced, is there one that means the most to you?
Probably this last one, man.
Yeah.
Just because of the way it happened, because we both were in the studio when it happened together. The lyrics she put behind it was kind of what the story I was telling her about, you know, going through life, going through people who are in your life. And, you know, it's because of you that, you know, you've done this and that. And hence why the song is called Because of You, you know. So, yeah, this last one is pretty good, you know.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
It really is a great track. Like, there's some songs that you listen to and, you know, you hear, and then there are some songs you listen to and you feel. And I had heard that, I had heard the track when it came out, and then just listening to it again today, I was like, man, like, there's something that went into this song that was a little bit deeper. So almost not surprised that you said that, because it is such a powerful track.
Yeah, she really put her heart and soul in that, and I think I did too. And, you know, when you get something you're so passionate about and love and it comes together, that makes a good song, man, you know?
I love that. I love it, man. I want to ask you about Careless Records, and we can get into Careless Dark too, but when did Careless start? What's the deal with the name? Who's involved? You know, tell us the origin.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, I did A&R. It's been in records for a while when it was first getting off the ground. And, you know, a lot of the kids that were getting signed to that label, I seen a lot of things going on. That was before it got bought out for $500 million, I think, last year. But there was a lot of things going on. So I was doing a lot of A&R. I was doing a lot of, like, producing, helping this guy out. And the kids he was bringing in, I just felt that they weren't getting a fair deal.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I want to start my own label and make sure everyone gets a fair deal out there, man. And they're getting treated the way they should, you know? So that's kind of what started this whole, you know, record label of Careless Records. Now, you know, Careless Records is kind of a broke down, like, Careless. Because we, you know, when I came up with the label, I just don't really care what people have to say. I want to make music and just have fun. So we could really care, you know, So careless means we could really care less what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to go out there, make our own music, and have people hear it and have a good time. So
awesome.
Yeah, the record industry is so freaking brutal, man. I've been doing it for so long. There's so many politics going on.
Yeah.
People change you in the industry. So, they're going to tell a kid who first came in who's super talented, years later, he's not even that same kid because they're controlling everything he's doing, what he's putting out, who he's working with, how he's dressing, how he's talking, how he's, carrying himself. We don't want that, man. We want people to come here and be happy and never change and just, make good music that they want to do.
Yeah.
So that's how Careless Records came about.
And when did it start?
It only started, I think it was in 2018, man. It's not even that old. So, people think we've been around for a while. We haven't. We are just getting started. We have a good catalog. We've got about 35, 36 tracks under our belt right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got a lot more that are going to be released soon. Mm-hmm. And we got good people behind us. Alex Kislov is on Careless Records, and he's a phenomenal kid, very talented, young, up-and-coming artist.
Yeah,
he's a hustler. He busts his butt at everything he does. He's somebody that you want to have on your team. So,
I agree.
So there are a few people that I really just gel with really good in the studio, and he's one of them. He's got some really good ideas, and every time we're in the studio, I think we make some really good stuff happen.
Yeah, big shout out to Alex Kislov and Arby too, man. I've been in touch with them almost daily for many different reasons, but I have so much respect for them. They are true Chicago guys in the sense that they give so much back to the city in a multitude of ways. So I love Alex's music, and Arby's such a go-getter. They both are, right? But
absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Careless, you're right. Like, I thought it had been around for a long time because it has that vintage feel of authenticity where it's legit. It's not just like, hey, we're a label that we just have a SoundCloud page. Like, your releases are structured, how you promote is structured. It's interesting you said spinning because I definitely got the professionalism vibes of that at the very least. So props to you, man. Who's some artists that you love on the label that have released or are upcoming?
Yeah. This kid is very underrated, but he's getting a big following. He's getting posted from all the big artists, man, like Grizz and Lenium. They're reposting his covers, but Jason Leach is a pretty phenomenal artist. He's a good, talented artist. You get a chance, check out some of his remakes that he's doing. He's doing a lot of like covers, but they're good. So he's got something up and coming. It's just unfair to say certain individuals when everybody on the label is great. You know what I mean?
Right.
Alex is good.
You release your own music on Careless too, right?
I do. Mm-hmm.
So yourself, you could say yourself, John, because I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just modest, man. I love my stuff, but I love anything, man. If it's good music, I'm going to listen to it, man. I don't care who's doing it, where they're doing it at, whether it's in their freaking room or in $1 million studio over at CRC in Chicago. I don't care, man. Music is music, man. And if it's good stuff, I'm going to listen to it, Some of the best music comes out of your bedroom. I can't stress that enough, man.
Yeah.
You don't need a big studio. And when a lot of these kids are making these studios and are like, man, my studio doesn't look cool enough, man. I got to buy, a new controller and a MIDI interface, audio interface, all that stuff. You don't need it, man. You just need the knowledge to make music and know how to make it right. And look, man, your stuff will sell. Look at Billie Eilish, for instance, Her brother made all that stuff in his bedroom, man.
It's true. It's the level that we're at with music production. I always talk about how, for your generation and my generation, right? Like, we had a lot of barriers to entry in terms of cost, actually, like buying equipment. When it actually comes to music production now, like, all you need is ripped Ableton and a laptop and good enough headphones. I mean, I'm pretty sure Skrillex produced some of his tracks off like, a warped laptop and all this stuff, right? They're all that stories, and
don't doubt it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And there, I'm not sure if you heard this guy Greco, but I just had him on last week, and he was telling me about an 11-year-old producer from Spain who is making some of the best music he's ever heard in his life. And I think that just proves the fact that there really is no barrier at all for music, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only time I really need to go into the studio is if somebody is doing vocals on one of my tracks. But even then, I mean, a lot of times, like you said, how do you do it? A lot of times I'll just send it off to a vocalist. They'll send it back to me. But if it's like, if I'm in LA and that person's in LA, I want to be in a session, but not necessary, man. But that's the only time really a studio is needed for some good vocals, man. A lot of these guys can do it on their own, so they don't have to stress about that, I've seen it done, and so have you.
Absolutely, man. And, with this whole COVID crisis going on right now, there's kind of a line in the sand between people that are saying everyone's expecting great music to come out of this downtime. There's also the artists on the other side saying just because we have a lot of downtime doesn't mean that this is going to be inspiring for us to make music.
Yeah.
How has that been for you, and how are you kind of, portraying what's going on?
Oh, man, I hate it, to be honest with you. I have no inspiration, man, honestly. The last song I did was for COVID-19. I put it on my social media. It was just a video I put together and like a film score type song of everything that's going on and the way I felt, man. I don't know if you heard it yet, but it is on my Facebook. So if you want to ever go check it out, it's a little depressing, but it's just how I'm feeling, man.
You're a good yeah.
So as far as inspiration goes, I'll have it. I mean, I'm always going to have it as a musician and being creative, but like I'll think about sit down in the studio, but then I get there and I'm like, man, dude, I'll go watch Netflix or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So it's tough, man. It's just the mind of a producer, I guess,
Absolutely. It's tough to be a yes man right now. And I'm glad you said that. For everybody who's going to watch this, it's not, like we said earlier, it's not that easy to just sit down and make a hit just because you have time.
No, man, it's not. It's on the contrary. You've got so much time, you're overthinking, So that's, again, I mean, I'll sit down in front of the piano or something. And it's why I like writing organic, because it just helps me easier. But even nowadays, it's just I'm not having too much inspiration, but I'm sure it'll come back soon,
Absolutely.
It always does.
Absolutely, John. I love that, man. And even though shows are on a hold right now, with all your productions is going to come shows, right? You've played at some of the best venues in Chicago, Prism and Tunnel, North Coast, and Summer Camp on the Good Bus. Shout out to everybody on the Good Bus and the Good Team.
Yeah, man.
What are some of your favorite shows you've played in your career?
The iconic Avalon in LA is awesome.
Yeah, when did you play there?
Was it in Alex? Was Alex with me? No, he was not. There was another kid named James Chesney.
Yeah, I know James, of course.
Okay, yeah. He went out to LA with me. I had to do the studio thing, and I had a set out there, and it was 2 years ago. Was it in 2018 or something? Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably one of the best sets because just the crowd and the vibe. So, and Avalon is iconic, dude.
Iconic, man. LA is. I want to know more about your perception on LA because I was actually born in Santa Monica.
Not a bad area to be born in. It's not a bad area at all.
I moved to the opposite end of Santa Monica, Indianapolis, Indiana. So it was a little different for me. But my parents were going to UCLA, and I still have a lot of friends out there and a lot of roots. And I love LA.
So do I.
Yeah, it's
my
awesome.
second home. It really is. So
it's calling my name too, honestly, John. Maybe when you move out there officially too, I'll tag along too. I'll sit shotgun. How's that?
There you go, man.
Okay, sounds good, man. Well, what's your perception on different cities in the United States? Let's just keep it within the U.S. Chicago, New York, L.A. What's been your perception of artists you've met, shows you've played, what you've heard about the scene? What do you think are the biggest differences?
I guess New York. I met a lot of good people over there. One of the guys that I'm working with, he used to work at Arista. His name is Kerry Vance.
Okay.
He does a lot of stuff for promo only. He's helped discover the Chainsmokers over there in New Jersey area.
Nice.
Those kind of people, man, they're good people out there. It's just, every single part of your country is so different, man. Like Detroit is so pure techno.
Yes.
And, you got LA, man, which, is a lot of underground, but, you can still get away with progressive house over there.
Yeah.
Like Avalon, for instance, I played that over there. Miami, I love Miami a lot. Played at Hyde a couple of times.
Nice.
Nice place to be. You can get, and a lot of that stuff is a lot of stuff going on in Europe because there's so many tourists that go into Miami that are from Europe.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, like, you know, Zed, Calvin Harris, all that stuff, that's totally feasible over there. So, you know, Chicago, man, I love it. It's just so tech house driven right now, so underground. And if you don't play tech house or underground, man, you know, a lot of people get mad. Or, you know, people are so, like, picky here in Chicago. And I think you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Chicagoans are so awesome, man. Midwestern people, I mean, again, I'm from the Midwest, but, dude, like, now you can't even play Fisher over at a place called, like, Dragon Room, dude, you know? And 2 years ago, like, he was so underground. And now if you go and play it saying, you know, what are you doing playing Fisher?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not underground anymore. So people are so picky here, you know? So, you know, and then in Vegas, dude, it's just like, whatever. They just want to go party. They're drunk half the time. And it's all about, you know, the club scene and what they're showing and all that. And play what you want, you know? So you're right, dude. I'm glad you asked me the question. Every city is so different, man.
I know.
You know?
That is the double-edged sword of the United States, right? It's like it's one country, but each city and state really has a European divide, sort of, right? Like,
absolutely.
There's so many different types of vibes in the U.S., man, and I think you really did a perfect description of what you can get in each city. And of course, there are amazing people in each, right? But everybody who's from there or lives there is really proud of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think in LA, man, I like it so much because everyone's so laid back, man. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone's so laid back, dude, and just chill. Even like the studio sessions I have, it's just so laid back and chill. And I fell asleep in a couple of them, man. You know, mixing and mastering, dude, because it's just so laid back and chill, and their vibe is just like whatever. It's just not as fast paced as say New York or Chicago or Miami or anything like that, man. You know, but yeah. You're right. A lot of different places and cities and totally different vibes, man, including music and genre.
It's true. And everybody asks that question gives a little bit of a different answer. But a question I really wanted to ask you, and one I always love asking veterans like yourself, you know, it's 2020 now, right? Like we went into a new decade. A lot's changed in the past 10 years, you know, especially you were talking about your influences from Chicago, growing up here, you know, 2000s, 2010 to now. What do you think have been the biggest differences you've seen? And what do you expect is going to come in the next decade?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You asked some pretty good questions, man.
I try.
Well, let's see. Genres, man. I mean, right now, when I do see like a lot of genres, I see a lot of freaking dubstep, man. It's just all crazy right now. It's just like hardcore type stuff.
Hardcore.
That's really big right now. I see a lot.
Their next though, man.
Exactly, man. So I see a lot of these live streams going on, and everyone's loving it. Even I check EDM Chicago, and all these kids are posting all this stuff, and it's just so hardcore. I honestly like it sometimes, but, you know, I just can't listen to that stuff like driving along in the car, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no way.
So, like, I think that we're going to see a lot of this stuff that's going on right now tail out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to mellow out a little bit more.
Without the show aspect kind of in the world right now, you think?
Man. I really think that this whole vibe, like, you know, Anjuna Deep, it's been around for a while, man.
Yeah.
But I see that coming up pretty big in the future. You know, Latrell is a really good artist on Anjuna Deep.
Love Latrell.
Yeah, and I just think that, you know, that, more Lane 8, more Yotto, a lot of these artists that, you know, have been underground in the underground scene for a while, I think they're going to start coming out, kind of like Fisher did with Tech House.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a lot of these artists that have been so underground and not trying to care about commercial or what kids like, they just want to make music because they like good music.
Yep.
I think they're finally going to get recognized for the music that they're making, and people are going to start listening more. And, you know, I just hate people who live life like sheep, you know? Like what you like, man. Like, don't like what you like because somebody else likes it, man. Like it for yourself. You know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, a lot of this hardcore stuff, it's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon, and people have done it for so long, but I just think people are going to eventually get recognized coming up in the years for what they love to do and how they do it, and not having to change for anybody, you know?
Absolutely, man. And that's what I always think about my brand, and I manage some other artists as well. And the biggest thing I say is, like, look, you got to play the long game, man. Like, what are you going to do every single day that you love to make it happen in the future, right? Because there's so many artists that it doesn't happen right away for them. You know, someone is big as Diplo or Calvin Harris, right? Like if you look at their catalog and how they grew, yeah, they like change maybe type of music they make. I mean, look at Calvin Harris and Love Regenerator these days, right? Like he's been waiting to release that type of music for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so important that whatever you do, put your time and effort in, is something that you love.
Yep.
You have
passion, man. You just got to love what you do. And I'm not saying, a lot of people say, oh, you're selling out or anything like here, Calvin Harris sold out, but he didn't really, man. He
didn't at all.
No, he's making what he still, he's doing what he still loved. I mean, he's making his hits just because they blew up. It's not his fault, but he made those tracks before they even got big. And now he's doing house stuff. So it's just like he's always been who he was, man. So, in Tiesto, for instance.
Yeah.
I love Tiesto, great guy. Everyone loves his older stuff, but you do have to change as an artist, man, sometimes. Not sell out, but, just make a little bit more dated, I should say. Because, a lot of people are not wanting the older stuff. It sounds too old. I mean, you can still do what you love, but just maybe change up who you are just a tad bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying, you still got to be you, but just make music and, experiment a little, man. Don't try to copy somebody. You be yourself, but still experiment, man. And make yourself stand out a little bit.
Absolutely. Like it's perfectly fine to get influence and inspiration from people who are doing it, but you got to put your own spin on it.
Yeah,
and that's probably the best part about electronic music to me is it is those little things like sampling, right? It is those little things like sampling a kick drum from Umid Ozkan and then taming it down a little bit to make it more of a tech house track, right? So it's definitely my favorite part about the electronic music community is everybody can learn from each other, but it is still so possible to be unique. You look at somebody like AC Slater, right? Night Bass, he started that brand 5 years ago. In the past 2 years, it has blown up. In the past year, it has gone to another level, right? And his story on that is nobody wanted my shit at all, right? And it's kind of an interesting thing to what you're saying about Careless and your own type of music, right? You wanted to go and change your own lane, and you wanted to carve a path for other people that you wanted to give opportunities to. And it's a two-way street in that regard. So I really love what you're doing with the record label, and you gave great answers to what's changed. It's a lot. A lot has changed, and a lot is going to change too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going to keep progressing, and who knows where it's going to take us in the next 10 years, man. But like, at the end of the day, just be you, make some good music, and be your own. Put something in it that you love, and you'll be happy with that. That's it'll eventually come. Just be patient, because a lot of these younger kids are not patient. They think they're going to be the next Martin Garrix or somebody overnight, man. It just doesn't happen like that. It does for some people, but these are like 3% of the music industry, man. You know what I mean?
Lower than that, yeah. It's like the one.
Yeah, maybe lower than 3%, but just be patient, man, and just keep grinding on it, man. And eventually it'll come. If your stuff is good enough, eventually it's going to get heard, and people are going to like it. You make good music, music sells itself.
I love that. I was going to ask you, what would be your advice to younger DJs and producers? And I feel like maybe it is that, right? Always stay true to who you are.
Stay true to who you are. Make good music, man, and just don't be afraid. People are afraid to release their stuff, or they're not confident and say, hey, they're going to spend a year on one track of mixing and mastering it, and they're going to hear it the next day and be like, no, I need to fix it. Don't be afraid to release stuff, man. Experiment, and if it's not good enough, don't have thick skin, man. Rejection is going to be there in the record industry, man, but just take it for what it's worth, man. Don't change, because you're going to have, you're going to send something off. You're going to send your song off to 10 different people. You're going to get 10 different opinions. Who do you listen to? You know what I mean? Listen to yourself, man.
Yeah, that's such a good point, John. That's such
you.
Well, last question. What's coming up for the rest of the year? You said you're working on some new music. Is there anything in the back pocket you're thinking about? What do you got to promote here, sir?
Yeah. Careless Dark tomorrow will have its very first release by Static Disco.
Mm-hmm.
Young up-and-coming producer from, like I said, the UK. Great track. Be sure to check it out. Looking for, some really good melodic, deep house. So if you guys are interested, just send your tracks, man. Demos at carelessdark.com.
Okay.
All melodic, deep stuff. we're really looking to build that up, and you know, that's what we got going on. And then I've got some new stuff coming out from Careless Records next month, and just go to carelessrecords.com for more information, man, or socials, man. We'll check you guys out. We get back to everybody, you know.
You got time.
Yeah, man, for sure. Everybody does now, huh?
No excuses from people anymore, right?
Not at all.
I love that, man. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking some time. Again, I just want to acknowledge you for all the success you've had, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. But it's because of guys like you that, you know, give, like I said, are carving a path to people like me and other upcoming artists. So shout out to you, John.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Well, we'll have this out next week. But again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. Have a good day. Be safe.
All right, brother. Peace.